This is the first philosophical book or publication that I have ever read in my life, and it has opened up a whole new world of possibilities in front of my eyes. I'm talking about Euthyphro, written by Plato, who was an ancient Greek philosopher, and this is what I learned from the book. So I will tell you some lines, some extracts, which I will also correlate with the story of what is happening, and I will tell you my explanation or my perception of that line. So a quick summary of what is going on in this scene currently. Socrates, who is Plato's master, he is the main character of the play. He is speaking to Euthyphro, who is also the main character of the play, and the play focuses around him and Socrates' conversation about different things. And there is a guy called Meletus who has forced charges on Socrates, and this is what Socrates says that Meletus is saying about Socrates. It is right to care first that the young should be as good as possible. So according to Meletus, he thinks young ones should be improved, which is a very nice ideology, but he is forcing the blame on Socrates that Socrates corrupts the young ones. And so he is in a way speaking that young ones should develop on their own. So he, according to me, is wrong in that sense, because he does not understand that for the young ones to develop, the older ones need to develop more first and pass their knowledge and skills to the young ones so that the young one can develop. Scene number 2. Here what happens is Euthyphro is charging his own father with the crime of murdering a person. And here after this you will soon see a twist, which I'm not gonna spoil right here. And here Socrates basically says to Euthyphro that don't you think it is unfair that you are imprisoning your own father? But Euthyphro says the following: it is ridiculous, Socrates, for you to think that it makes any difference whether the victim is a stranger or a relative. One should only watch whether the killer acted justly or not. If he acted justly, let him go. But if not, one should prosecute if, that is to say, the killer shares your heart and table. The pollution is the same if you knowingly deep company with such a man and do not cleanse yourself and him by bringing him to justice. Up until this part, I agree with him, because it's our duty to bring justice to people who have committed a crime, even if they are a blood relative of ours. The watcher of the crime or the person who is indirectly involved in the crime is also guilty or as guilty as the person who is committing the crime himself. And here is the twist. Scene 3. So till now you know that Euthyphro is persecuting his father for killing a person. But do you know the twist? The twist is that the person who was killed by Euthyphro's father also had killed someone in the past. And this is the one thing I like about philosophy, that is, it can be read in multiple ways. For example, you see my viewpoint and you might not agree with it, but I will share it anyways. That is, see, in a larger scale of things, the person who was killed by Euthyphro's father was also a killer. That means the circle of justice has come a full way around, which may not be so obvious, because what I am trying to say is Euthyphro's father was justified in killing that person because that criminal was also a killer of somebody else. That means he was perhaps destined to die for his crimes. Right now, Euthyphro is doing something which is totally out of this cycle by prosecuting his father. Now the question arises is, everything is subjective, because from Euthyphro's point of view, he is performing the duty of a nobleman by bringing someone who is a criminal to justice. But from my point of view, he is making a dent or a imbalance in the cycle of deeds. Let me simplify it down. Euthyphro's father killed a person. So let the number of sins equals 1. Now we know from the history of that man was also a killer. So that means 1 minus 1, that is 0, because original sin and the sin of that person have been cancelled out. But now that Euthyphro is prosecuting his own father, that means another sin is added. So the cycle of deeds get imbalanced again and it increases to 1 again. Do you know the fascinating fact? The fascinating fact is, it was not even the main thing of the Euthyphro play. It was just an appetizer. The real discussion is about what is pious and what is not pious. But that single incident of Euthyphro's father is just a level of philosophical work in itself. And I'm not trying to justify or boast or make the philosophers of the old days seem very great in front of your eyes. What I'm telling is the truth, because it was just the prologue of the story and we have been hit with so much of content. We have been forced to think a lot and our minds have been spin full circle, because nobody knows what the correct answer to the question is. It might be that Euthyphro might be correct, or it may be that Euthyphro isn't correct. Now let's get on to the main story. Scene 4, and the context is that Socrates asks Euthyphro what is pious. Euthyphro replies instantly and says, well then, what is dear to gods is PS, what is not is impious. So according to Euthyphro, PS and impious are dictated by the wills of gods. He will soon contradict himself and he will soon make a whole lot of news stories about what is PS or not PS, but currently as it stands, he thinks what is and what is not is impious. So speaking religiously, if a god was to be imprudent, if a god was to be lustful, if a god was to be a virtueless entity, then pleasing him would require us humans to perform impious actions. If there were multiple gods who disagreed with each other, it will be a whole lot of chaos to please each and everyone and still perform pious actions in eyes of every god. Now speaking as an atheist myself, I do not have a god to follow. So I rely on myself, and this poses a contradiction because does that mean I get to choose what is pious or not pious? And if we get a little bit into the politics and the logistics, then anyone could make up their own god. If someone created a god who considers terrorism to be pious, that would bring a whole lot of chaos in this world. That will be impious to the rest of us, that will be pious to him because according to his god that is pious. I agree with Socrates in this one because in scene 5 he basically says the same thing. What are the subjects of difference that cause hatred and anger? Let us look at it this way. If you and I were to differ about numbers as to which is greater, would this difference make us enemies and angry with each other? Or would we proceed to count and soon resolve our differences about this? Socrates basically touched what I just touched right now, that is Euthyphro's argument is flawed because if different gods were to differ about what is pious and what is impious, everything will be thrown into chaos. But this is not just a philosophy of the old days where only all people thought were about gods. No, this can be applied to the modern day and yes, 2024. For example, two countries have different or even conflicting laws on the same matter. Which one would you consider pious? I am not going to name any political movements or something like that, but you have enough brains to understand what I mean. What would you consider pious if two different laws were to conflict with each other? Which country would be more justified? And that is why I think people should be allowed to see the truth instead of making them forced to believe a particular law, because if you beat something into someone, they will not understand it. Whereas if, as Socrates says, and I also agree with it, that if you use your words first, then they might understand. For example, working out. You can't just force someone to work out. They have to see the truth for themselves first and then they will start to work out. Now coming to scene 6. Socrates is disappointed by Euthyphro's argument and hence says the following: we shall soon know better whether it is. Consider this. Is the pious being loved by gods because it is pious, or is it pious because it is being loved by gods? For all the anime fans, this might seem kind of relatable to one famous line in the anime world, that is of Jujutsu Kaisen, where Geto said the following to his friend Gojo: are you the strongest because you are Gojo Satoru, or are you Gojo Satoru because you are the strongest? Now this creates a big daunting paradox of whether something is influenced by the other thing or the influence is made due to the existence of something else. What I tried to mean there is basically whether the truth or the reality is subjective or objective. For all the science nerds, this also relates to the special theory of relativity, which assumes that all the points are valid and all the frames of references are equally validable or creditable. So we cannot ever say that something is wrong, because that would be our subjective understanding. Now scene 7 and the last scene. This is where the discussion of what is PS and what is not PS concludes in a very nice and organized fashion. Now of course, this is not a question that everyone can answer, everyone can conclude. Even the greatest philosophers suffer from this. So it is not a 100% true, valuable, justified argument, or whatever you want to call it. So this is what Socrates says, and I will explain you in simple terms later after I read the entire thing because it's kind of mind-boggling. So here we go. He says the following: we speak of something carried and something carrying, something led and something leading, something seen and something seeing, and you understand that these things are all different from one another and how they differ. You understand, right? Alright, let me continue. So it is in the same case that as the things just mentioned, it is not being loved by those who love it because it is something loved, but it is something loved because it is being loved by them, according to Socrates. Now this is a very phenomenal and key point and the key principle or key argument of this video that I want you to take away from here. That is, he is trying to say a thing becomes a thing because it is influenced by something else, not the other way around. That must mean, getting back back to the Gojo example. He is the strongest because he is himself, not the other way around. He is trying to say that influence is necessary for something to be changed into something else. I don't know how much important it is to you guys, but it just opens up a whole new way to live. Just purely considering it from the perspective of self-improvement, it tells you that if you are not influenced by something, you will not change. That means it is just as Marcus Aurelius said, if you think you're hurt, then you are hurt. If you don't think you're hurt, then you are not hurt. You know, if you want to really get into the deep science, then we actually find that at the quantum level, things influence each other, and that is why matter is created. Even on the atomic level, if you influence the nucleus of an atom, that changes into something else. There are different principles like radioactivity, radiochemistry, and all of these things, but basically if you influence something, it changes into the other thing. That means if you don't let anyone influence you, then you are not going to persuade, you are not going to deviate from your own path. I don't know whether you are understanding the gravity of the answer of this question, just like I am feeling it right now, but I really hope you are understanding the feeling. You know, I have to say this was probably the longest recording session of my entire career on YouTube, because the explanation of Plato's Euthyphro took way longer than I ever expected it was gonna take. The video is probably trimmed down to about 10 or 15 minutes because it will be edited so that you understand what I'm speaking, because I spoke a lot and I have been recording for about an hour or so. My throat's hurting, but regardless of that, I just want you to realize one thing, that is influence is one of the most key factors in this entire damn world. This was a challenge for me to record, and I'm really sorry if there was any kind of background noise or something like that. So I really hope you enjoyed it. Start if you haven't already.